Welcome. Take It Up with Jessica Lee. I'm here with Angela Salerno, who is the North America Field and Channel Marketing Director at Silver Peak.
Thank
Hi,
you. Hi.
Angela.
Thank you.
Silver Peak is doing very well in the networking space, particularly SD-WAN, one of the top leaders on the Magic Quadrant.
Yes.
So it's an exciting time for you. The company is only about 500 employees, but doing phenomenal, and that's huge opportunity in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Given your role covering the North America, I'm wondering about the strategy behind this fantastic program you're doing, and
Yeah.
if you can share a bit more about the experience and some of the lessons learned so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me, number one. But you're right. It is a very exciting time, and I actually joined the company about a year ago, and my responsibility into that was kind of bringing together this new notion of field and channel marketing as a practice for them. I've been very fortunate that I've been able to assemble a team, which is a reflection of that new way of thinking, of course supported by very great leadership behind that. But you're right, we have a pretty exciting program that we've brought to the market. It's called Peak Performance, and the whole premise is around the notion of we have got this, best of breed technology that's out there, and the most important opportunity that we can deliver to anyone who's evaluating SD-WAN, let alone Silver Peak, is to give them an opportunity to really get their hands on the product, right? And get really deep into it. And even further than that, get them so educated in it that they can walk away saying, I am more of an expert now and can represent the technology back into my company. And again, during evaluation, I think that's just such a critical component to have, right?
And they're learning it by attending a workshop that's like a half-day workshop.
That's right.
In a small environment to really learn and be able to ask questions and interact with the experts.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So the very baseline of it is a half-day workshop, as you said, about 5 hours total of coming into a classroom, and you are a technical evangelist or just, someone who's responsible for being hands-on with the product day in and day out. But you're met with your peer, right? And this SE instructor is spending time with you through slideware, through hands-on lab work, through site documentation and guided lab documentation. But like I said, you become incredibly familiar with it by the time that you're done.
I think it's fantastic that you actually give them a certificate, right? Given that you're one of the leaders in the space, you're sharing knowledge to them that they can then proudly say, hey, I passed the learning and I have something to show.
You're right. And I think, there's a little bit of psychology that kind of plays into that, and I think you're leaning into that. But bigger than that, I think it's also okay to just call out a couple of things, right? Because this is a white hot market. You've got people who are still trying to figure out how to define SD-WAN in the context of their environment, right? And it's really important to lean into that. Thankfully, we are getting recognition through, the Gartner Magic Quadrant for having superb technology, but all the same, we have to kind of toe that line of recognizing that our end user, or potential end user, needs more coaching, needs more definition. So that's exactly, I think, why spending such a good amount of time not only defining what the technology is, but showing real-world implication of impact of the technology into your ecosystem and your environment. It's really, really important to deliver that full experience. And then, like you said, playing into that by giving certification to recognize expertise out of that, I think it's just, really, really important. One thing, though, is that we almost reference it as a precursor, right? Because we've actually got a very robust amount of training and certification that we offer to our entire customer life cycle, as well as even before they adopt the technology. So I certainly don't want to diminish that, but you're right, it does definitely play into the program as we're delivering it right now.
So anybody can sign up for this, right?
Yeah, anybody can. It is a free course. But what we really try to do is spend a little bit of time making sure that we do have the right person in the group with us. We want to spend a little bit of time just looking at what their business is, who they are, and making sure that it really is a relevant conversation for them.
So usually it's a network engineers, administrators.
You're right.
Okay.
So IT admins, somebody who's responsible for infrastructure and network modernization, absolutely. But, that's probably just scratching the surface on some of the titles we've seen.
Okay. So you've been running this for a couple of quarters,
Yeah.
this program. What results have you seen? What are some of the lessons learned?
Yeah. So, again, I think that this is, it's knocking my socks off with the way that it's going with this program. And a couple of ways that we've started to evaluate that is through the following. So number one, for the prospect accounts that we have coming into these events, we've got an incredible conversion rate. So I'm talking about more than 40% into new opportunity within the first 60 days. And given that the fact that this is such a unique product, but it has complexity behind it, you have to be prepared that there's a longer sales cycle behind it. So to see that initial conversion already is, I think, proof positive in terms of why the program is working.
Yeah.
Another,
That's huge.
Yeah, it is.
That's huge.
Another factor that we look at is also deal acceleration, right? So deal velocity and momentum. And the way that we evaluate that is by looking at from seeing an account that we've engaged with who might already have some worth to us, maybe even already started a qualified evaluation or opportunity evaluation. The time from attending into one of these events into seeing opportunity accelerate past the point of needing to go through a bespoke POC or proof of concept, that also we've seen significant acceleration through already.
That's fantastic.
And I think probably the piece of data that we'll be looking at as well is just seeing how this starts to result in terms of, deals sold. But I don't really want to make it such a selling activity because I think more importantly, the criteria of success that we talk about a lot is just the quality of the experience that we get from people who do attend.
Right.
And we've received a tremendous amount of feedback from people who've attended who like the purity of the technical acumen. They like the format in which they're experiencing it because they get to be so hands-on with it.
But this is field marketing is very important because
Yeah.
you have this hands-on interaction. You're building a rapport in person, but it is part of a bigger strategy of multi-touch to communicate with the prospects through that journey.
That's exactly right. And, sidestepping a little bit and just kind of talking about what had happened when I joined Silver Peak, there was this notion of the fact that we are getting so big and reliance on top of the funnel is an important element, but it doesn't necessarily show, I think, the full gamut of what a sales team actually needs, and it doesn't feed that, right? And I think that bringing in myself and ultimately my team was a step towards recognizing that we've got to actually sit down and meet with our stakeholders, both in the sales domains and the channel domains, and actually build out a territory plan, which is a reflection of priority, goals, objectives, and then be responsible and accountable to that. And the only way you can do that, of course, is to also put goals into that strategy, into that territory plan, and measure against it and report back to those stakeholders and say, this is why we need to do more of this or less of that.
And you're seeing a huge sign up, right? Like 10 times more people interested this year than last year.
Yeah, it's been really incredible, and it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy in that in order to make it a successful program, the internal folks need to really believe in the philosophy of what it is that you're doing, and your timing has to be good. Thankfully, we've hit both of those, and our teams are recognizing the value. We're getting high endorsements from sales leadership, technical leadership, product leadership, and that all, funnels into this program overall. So then it just starts to spill out into the market. Timing is great because brand is awesome right now for us, and it's just growing. And then also the fact that the whole program can actually start to go in different directions to fit different use cases, which again serve the company really well. Scaling to educating partners, scaling to pass through to partners, building out of the curriculum as you see it now, so we can feature different technology partners, which again makes the end user experience the best version of it, right? Because that's ultimately what we need to make sure stays priority, is the learning and, I think the program experience overall.
Excellent.
Right? Yeah, I get excited.
Well, the other thing you're very excited about is women in tech. So let's talk about that. How are you making a difference at Silver Peak?
Yeah, so just a context statement here. This is something that I love to have a conversation with all the time. And I've been talking about it well before Silver Peak, but I've also been very, very fortunate to be part of programs both within my company as well as outside of my company. And that's always just kind of been a piece of what I offer. And I was very, very fortunate in that when I was talking with Silver Peak, especially to the hiring team that I'm with now, they really responded well to that. They want that. They want diversity and inclusion. So that also, I think, really kind of fueled into my decision making for Silver Peak. But now fast forward a year later, we are now at this point where we are getting big enough that it's time to start really focusing on the community. So between myself and various leaders that we have throughout the company, we're just starting to now formalize what will a women in technology platform look like. You and I were talking about it offline a little bit. You'll have to set some goals for yourself.
Yeah.
You'll have to be transparent and be accountable to it. And I'm very, very thankful again that we've got a company and a culture who is extremely responsive to that. So early phase stuff right now for Silver Peak, where it's going, I think is just sky's the limit, I should say. But just the fact that we have this opportunity to create a community around it again is really, really great.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
For taking the initiative to push for improvement.
Well, I think, thank you for that. And, I will always say that initiative is something that you'll definitely get out of me. But there's reciprocity, right? You have to have initiative, but you also have to have leadership who endorses and embraces it.
And Silver Peak is at that right position, that time, in the journey to actually start implementing some of the, talk is great, but let's put it in action. And
that is exactly the moment we're in.
Wonderful. Well, it's been a great conversation to hear about field marketing, what you're doing at Silver Peak to make a difference, and the Women in Tech initiative.
Well, thank you very much, and I do hope that we'll be talking again about both of those subjects soon.
There you have it, folks. Take it up with Jessica Lee, Angela Salerno from Silver Peak.